1 Corinthians 7:12. If she does not leave him, she should stay single. If she does leave him, she should stay single or make up with her husband. And a husband should not divorce his wife. We once marriages should be treated with respect and should be tried to work out as much as possible. Okay. Luke 5:12 through 16. One day while he was in a in a city, this is referring to Jesus, there was a man covered with advanced case of leprosy. Now, leprosy was a very common thing. We see how they're outcast. They're consider the scripture considers them unclean, so they're isolated. When the man saw Jesus, he bowed his face to the ground and begged Jesus to heal him. So leprosy is a big deal. If he begged Jesus, "Sir, if you want to, you make me clean." The biggest problem with leprosy wasn't the sickness; it was isolated. You were isolated because it was considered unclean. They'd be left alone. They would be all by themselves because anybody who came in contact with them would be considered unclean. So he's asking Jesus to heal him so he can be clean. Not because sickness goes away. He wants to be clean. You know, Jesus heals us, makes us clean, takes away our sins. Then he put out his hand and touched him, saying, I want to be cleansed. Immediately the leprosy left him. So he was able to heal him. Now he didn't just this was life changing. When Jesus heals us, it's life changing. It isn't just something that happens, it's life changing. And he ordered him, "Don't tell anyone. Instead, show yourself to the priest, then offer the sacrifice required in the law of Moses for those who have been healed of leprosy, so everyone will have proof of your healing." So he'd go to the priest, get checked out. The fact that Jesus healed his leprosy, the priest would see no signs of it and would consider him unclean, consider him clean once again. A sacrifice would be offered up to the Lord. This sacrifice would depend on the amount of money the person had. Lower income would offer a lower sacrifice because they didn't have much. Most likely he would have offered the lowest sacrifice because he had leprosy and would have been isolated, therefore he wouldn't have been rich. Um, he's telling him, don't tell anyone. The word of Jesus is bringing anger to people at this point. His time, the Pharisees are already seeking and plotting and discussing killing him. When Jesus' time ain't yet come, so he's trying to not make things rush out of the time, but oftentimes we can't keep the good news of Jesus to ourselves. And this is what happens with that man. He couldn't keep the good news to himself. We see that later. Verse 15. Yet, despite his instructions, we see that here. The report of his power spread even faster, and the huge crowds came to hear him preach and to be healed of their illness. So they came not just to be healed, they wanted to hear what he had to say. That's important. Oftentimes people go to Jesus because they want something from him. But when he wants something from them, they're not there. They're not there to listen to his word. They just want him to help them with everything. And going to Jesus for help ain't bad. But if we're not willing to serve him, his help ain't doing much good for us. Verse 16. So he himself often withdrew to the wilderness and prayed. So he went off by himself. Oftentimes we're going to be so busy, we got to have that us and God time. Jesus set the standard. Jesus had to get away from service. Sometimes we may. We're just us and God. And it's important to take that time. But it's also important to make sure we're like Jesus and go back to serving.